Hi everyone, welcome to the next video on the Porsche 912 where we'll start the metal work on the shell. With so much to do on this car, I found it tricky to decide where to start, but eventually I decided on this near side rear quarter. I need to remove this outer panel very carefully because we'll be repairing it and refitting it later on. So the first thing I want to repair is the torsion tube. To do this, I'm going to have to remove this inner quarter panel and the inner longitudinal panel on this side, and then I can go around the other side, remove the welds from that side and take the whole tube out the car in one. With the near side of the tube released, it's time to get cracking on the offside. So here I'm just grinding down the welds that hold the tube to the inner quarter panel. Once this is done, I can remove the whole tube. Look how bad this inner quarter panel is. It's got several patches that have been half welded in and just in really poor state of repair. We've got a complete new panel to replace this, but in the meantime let's get cracking on the tube. First things first, I need to remove what's left of the inner longitudinal panels. I'm then going to clean up the welds and then inspect the tube before I decide how to repair this. So we've got the torsion tube out of the car, cleaned up what was left of the longitudinal panel and inner quarter panel. As you can see, it's wafer thin, and the lip in there that the spring plate bush sits up against is all rotten as well. So basically this gets cut back, these tubes slide in here, actually like that, and then that's got the lip in there. This is actually a much stronger repair than just trying to repair this and this lip. These are pretty solid. So yeah, they won't rust out. Right, let's get going. So the first thing I need to do is measure and mark exactly how much tube we need to cut off. Then I can use the bandsaw to cut off the required amount. So here you can see that the repair tube has been tapped inside the main torsion tube and then fully welded around. I need to clean this up, repair the other end, and then we can reinstall the torsion tube. And that is the torsion tube fully repaired. I can now bolt this back to the jig and start repairing the metalwork on the car that then subsequently welds to the tube. Okay, so we've got the tube repaired up and bolted in place to the gearbox mounts and through the torsion bar cover mounts. I've now got to repair this inner longitudinal section. We can then repair this big outer piece here. We've got a bit of damage just here as well. So I'm going to pull that out, then work my way up to replace this. Got some gnarly welding going on up there, so sort that out. Clean all of this up. Got a bit of perforation there. And then that'll be that inner flitch panel repaired. Let's get going. So with the inner longitudinal repaired, it was time to repair the outer. To get started on this, I had to remove this sill panel. I then wanted to remove the kidney bowl and jacking point before I could assess the full panel. Okay, so that is the jacking point, the rest of that inner quarter panel and kidney bowl removed. Found a little bit of grot up here that we'll repair later. And then this inner longitudinal bit here, which I'm going to repair now. And then I can look at putting on this outer panel. With all the inner repaired up and the outer ready to go on, I just wanted to give everything a good coat of epoxy primer to make sure it didn't go rusty again and make sure this repair lasts for a long time. Okay, so that is all cleaned and prepped and ready for the outer panel now. So I'll show you what we're going to do with that before we can fit it. So I covered this repair in one of our previous videos on the Porsche 911 SC, but for the benefit of our new viewers, I'll go through it again. This is where the torsion bar cover mounts and is the inner quarter panel. It's had a pretty average repair through here. So I'm going to replace all of this, and these bosses are a little bit gnarly as well. So the repair panel comes in 3 sections. We've got the outer skin here. We've got the inner strengthener. So it sits there, so this needs spot welding around here. And then we've got these bosses which go through this panel, through the holes, and then they're MIG welded in place. Once we've done that, we can prep it all and we can fit it to the car. Always make sure that all the bare metal that's being welded is covered in copper weld through primer before I spot weld it. Okay, so I'm using this jig bracket just as a reference. As you can see, we've spot welded the strengthening plate in, and I've just tacked these bosses in for now. So I'm going to take it back off of the jig bracket and then weld it in fully. With the strengthening panel now spot welded in, I can clean up the rest of the panel on all the edges and areas that need to be welded. Okay, so I've quickly mocked this panel up now. We've got it bolted to the chassis jig, so we know it's bolted exactly in the right place. So I'm now going to fit some fastening screws here for references. I'm going to scribe round it, take it all off, trim my scribe line, and then we're ready to weld it in. Okay, so this is all prepped now, ready to weld in. As you can see, we've got our cut line. And I've just left a couple of little tabs just to screw that on. And yeah, they'll get cut off when I weld it together. Right, let's get going. So next up, I'm going to repair this section. As you can see, it's got lots of holes in it. Looks like a tea bag. So yeah, going to cut that off, make a section and let it in. Okay, so that's a new section made, and I've also made a section that spot welds to the inside where the bumper mounts to. Unfortunately, the inside of this inner longitudinal panel is really rusty. I sometimes clean these areas up and treat them, but this is too far gone, so I'm going to have to buy a new section for this. In the meantime, I can finish off repairing the outer. So with that repaired, it's time to clean up the top of this quarter panel. Luckily, it's mostly surface rust and will just need a small repair right at the top. So here I'm just measuring and marking out the new repair panel. It's only a small piece with 2 simple folds, so it's a really easy repair. So with that repair made, I'm going to clean up the rest of this surface rust and use some Porsche 15 rust treatment just to make sure it's ready before we put some epoxy primer on it. Now it's time to turn our attention to this seatbelt mount. Okay, so we have cleaned up all of this area now and coated it in Porsche 15 metal prep, which leaves a nice zinc phosphate finish. So that is now all treated. We've got to clean all of this area up, all of this area up. I'm now going to do the middle sill or the inner sill and jacking point, and then we can get all of that in a nice coat of epoxy primer and move on to the other side. With the middle sill removed, I gave the heater tube a coat of epoxy before using the spot welder to attach the new middle sill. I can't use the spot welder because I can't get to the back of this panel, so I drilled some holes and plug welded it together. So I gave the area a coat of copper weld through primer before attaching the jacking point and mocking up the kidney bowl. Rather than try and guess where the kidney bowl goes, I loosely attach the outer seal just to get the spacing right for the kidney bowl. I then used some screws to hold it in place before plug welding it onto the car. Last thing to do on this panel was pull out the damage around here. It kind of looks like the wheel had fallen off and been pushed up into this panel at some point. Okay, so that's all the repairs into epoxy primer now. Doesn't look like we've done a huge amount, but I'm pretty pleased with the progress so far. We've even got this middle sill and jacking point back on, along with the new kidney bowl. So that's this side pretty much tied up now. I think I'm going to repair this inner longitudinal next, and then over to the other side. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.